And you can eat mallow. It's edible. But I find the marshmallow root, just using a capsule or a tincture, is a lot easier, depending on people's lifestyles. I mean, if you want to grow stuff and use it, that's fine. But some people, they're not good gardeners, or they don't have the time, and you can go either way.
So actually, a question on that. So I love the hibiscus plants, all the varieties, whether they're tropical or native. But when you go to harvest the root off of them,
well, you're not going to harvest the root with the tropical hibiscus. They use the flower. And actually, the tropical hibiscus, I sell the flower, is good for bringing down your blood pressure. And it's a very good tasting tea.
But even I was just thinking the process. If I went out there and I have, this beautiful hibiscus plant, and I go to harvest the root off of it, is there how should I do that so I don't kill my plant?
You probably, with the shrub, you can't. But there's different, like all families, there's a lot of different plants, a lot of different species.
Yeah.
So there's a mallow that grows wild. It's come up in my yard. And at one point I was using it for something, and then it kind of disappeared after that. But the shrub material, usually you're using the flower, the actual flower. And a lot of people don't want to give up their flowers because they're so spectacular. You're going to pick them when they're prime, So a lot of people don't want to do that. It's probably easier just to buy the tea already dried. But the perennial plants, which are not woody, are not shrub-like, those you would use the root or the leaf.
And it keeps us in the nursery industry in the business, keeps our family fed.
Yeah.
Buy a new plant. Come on. Take one for the team.
Well, I mean, it's great because now these are plants that just look awesome in the yard, and they really are spectacular.
Lavender's a great plant for a lot of things.
To them.
Yes. Lavender is a great plant. However, it likes a very well-drained soil. And there was a woman, I can't remember her name, a British woman. A man was planting in this country. It was a letter she wrote to him. She said, when you plant a lavender, plant a rock, because the rock will keep the temperature cool in the summer and warm in the winter. And lavender, I had a customer, they live up on the mountain. They wanted to do a whole hedge of lavender. I said, it won't grow because of the wind. So I have found, and lavender likes sweet soil, so you'd have to use lime with it. I did things right with certain. It's amazing. The plants live or die in spite of you. So if you pay attention and you do some reading, all your successes, you find out why they were a success eventually. My first lavender, and lavender usually, commercially when they grow it, they replace it like every 8 years. But lavender usually has a life expectancy of about 12 years. Sometimes I had one that went over 20 years.
Wow.
But it was behind the garage, near the foundation. It got a lot of sun, very well-drained soil. And it was happier than a clam there. It just loved it. I found out probably the lime from the cement kept the soil sweet, and it was happy there. Mm-hmm. That's where the chamomile was not happy. But lavender is great for smelling, for relaxing. You can use it if you have a real bad cough. You could put a little sprig of lavender in your tea. It relaxes. It's a muscle relaxant. So it'll actually help relax those muscles that cause that hacking cough when you have a cold. So, lavender is a great plant to grow.
Yeah.
There's tansy. People, that can be invasive, but tansy, it keeps away the flies. That's why the colonials always planted it by the back door. And when I would find, I had Santolina, I used to grow Santolina, which they call lavender cotton, has a little yellow button flower. And when I heard your show and you talked about cleaning up the garden beds at winter, not so much. So, excuse me, the reason is I like the structure it gives the snowfall. And I like how the birds eat the seeds all winter long. And yes, maybe it harbors some problems. But, basically I'm kind of more of a naturalist when it comes to that. And I'm not what you call a tidy gardener.
Yeah.
So in the spring, a lot of people, the only herb that I know you need to cut down in the fall to maintain it well is sage. Because sage will just grow these arms and legs, and it goes all over, and then eventually you have to replace it. But if you keep it pruned, it'll stay. It'll keep its shape much better. But what I would do is I would go out in the spring, and lavender is one of the last things to green up. Everybody, I had a grower recently that I buy from. They started growing lavender and selling it. And then after a couple of years, she said, people are calling me, telling me their lavender. And she thought her lavender didn't make it through the winter. I said, wait till Memorial Day and then wait 2 more weeks. And then if it doesn't green up, it's dead. Because I find that lavender is one of the last things, some varieties, the last things to green up. So what I do is I go out in the spring and I trim off anything that looks dead, like Santolina and my lavender, and ultimately I cut off some green stuff, which I cry about. But I let it dry, and then I put it in a little container, hang it in my closet, it keeps the bugs away out of your woolen coats and things. So, you can, so for me, that works. Some people, I had one woman, she says, I never have any seedlings. Husband gets out there with the weeder, turning the soil as soon as he can. And I said, well, he's not allowing anything to germinate.
It's always the husband's fault,
Well, in this case it was. And in this case it was. I said, tell him not to do that and see what comes up. But some people, there's a lot of weeds like we can eat, like purslane and chickweed are wonderful salad herbs. They're full of vitamins. They're great. Purslane's very mucilaginous. It's in the portulaca family. And, there's wonderful herb plants that, let them grow and then pull them out. Plantain is great for bug bites and for skin irritations. So if I have a plantain that's doing really well, and it's a pretty plant, you have your narrow leaf plantain and you have your broadleaf plantain. Yeah. They're beautiful plants. I let them grow. My neighbor and his dog and his daughter got into a bunch of yellow jacket nest, and they had all kinds of stings on them. And I had let some plantains grow. I have a stone patio. Things love to germinate on a stone patio because of the minerals, I think. And I had some really nice big plants. I pulled them up by the roots. They were probably at least a foot to 18 inches tall. Pulled them up, shook off the dirt, gave them 3 plants. I said, put it in a big pot and boil it up, the whole plant. And I said, pour half of it in your daughter's tub, let her soak in it for 20 minutes. And then you draw a tub and put the other half in. And he came back the following week and said it worked because it draws out the venom, draws out the poisons.
And purslane...
No, that was plantain.
Oh, plantain?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, plantain.
Yeah, yes. But purslane is very good salad herb.
Wonderful. It's got as much omega-3, I guess, as salmon.
Yes.
And it's growing on the side of the patio.
And it likes always a shaded or a cool area.
Yeah.
So, let it grow a little bit and then pull it out and use it. I don't know. I've never cooked it. It might even be good to cook.
I haven't cooked it. It was great in the salad.
Yeah. But you use it or harvest it. Don't let the plant keep growing and just take some off and...
Yeah. As long as you don't have puppy dogs around.
Well, that's true. Or use a lot of chemicals on your lawn
you can't
or in your garden.
Well, that's a good point. If you're going to use these herbs, either in your, certainly in your garden, but in the lawn proper itself, in your landscape, you don't want to be spraying the 1, 2, 3, 4, and putting all kinds of pesticides out there.
Right. You don't want to ingest any of that. No. And
that's my thought anyway.
And the other thing is you don't want to harvest anything that's too close to the road, especially if you're on a major road.
Just from more of the salting,
the salt and the
emissions,
and right now I'm finding that the stuff they're using on the roads is actually changing what's happening to my lawn and my plants up along the road and quite a distance. It's very corrosive.
Yeah.
And I'm my light on my sign has gotten corroded. The light bulbs actually break.
Really?
Yeah. So it's the inside, the bottom part, if it gets in there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You only have to look at the pines at the end of spring, like right now. Pines along the Route 2 or any of the highways, and see what the salt and whatever else they put on the road does to them.
Yeah.
They don't look pretty.
No.
And we need those plants. We need the plants. The trees are very important because they put oxygen back into our environment. And that brings up something about poison ivy. Poison ivy loves CO2. If the carbon dioxide.
Yeah.
If you notice, the poison ivy is more virulent now, more aggressive in where it's growing than ever, because we have too much CO2 in our environment and it's sucking it up. So, we consider it a nuisance, but it's actually doing something purposeful. So that brings me to the point of respecting the plant life. And a lot of things that we consider a nuisance or bad has its benefits, and we need to respect that.
But it could be like you said, in moderation, right? Where, poison ivy on the patio or the playscape,
not good.
You don't want that.
No.
But, leaving it in the fringe of the woods and some other
problem,
areas is...
The problem with poison ivy, though, right now is I find it grows everywhere. It grows in a sunny field. It grows in the woods. It grows everywhere.
Yeah.
And the birds eat the seeds, and they poop them out, and it comes up wherever they poop the seeds. So... I understand people needing to get rid of poison ivy on their property. I've battled it, and I didn't get it when I was younger, but now I get a very bad skin irritation from it.
Yeah.
So it's a problem.
Yeah. So, since starting your store in 95, and, what can you share with us a story of maybe what's been your most rewarding experience where you've really seen something you've been able to help somebody with, like really impact them?
When people come back and they say, and I've learned things from my customers, that's what's amazing, they'll say, well, my mother used to use this for this. And I go, oh, really? And I'll try it, and they're right. So I've learned things from my customer. There was something I was thinking of on the way over here, and I forgot that somebody just told me recently. And I said, I know what it was. He makes tea with red basil, like red cooking basil.
Yeah.
He says it's delicious. I said, really? I never made a tea with it. I'm going to try it this year. So, I learn a lot from my customers. But for me, the reward is when people actually either learn how to do things for themselves. They're making remedies for their family. They're really helping themselves and their families. They come back to me and say, gee, that really worked. That helped. Yes, that's rewarding to me. That's what it's all about, as far as I'm concerned.
Great. Well, I think this is a great session. I think we're just on the tip of getting into how do we consume all this stuff, right? And getting into how do we make the teas and the tinctures and the decoctions and everything, and probably something we'll have to save for another episode.
Sure, I'd love to come back.
Great.
It'd be great.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking your time and visiting with us today. This was great. I've learned a ton. I have a lot. Actually, I think I'm going to leave with more questions and more stuff to get into.
Good.
And stuff we can do at home
more
and research. But yeah, always. And the curiosity just keeps rolling.
Yep.
But again, Kassie, thank you very much. And it's Kassie Mashiak from Kassandra. It's All About Thyme, Herbs Unlimited. That's 54 Springfield Road in Somers, Connecticut. And the best way to reach you can read more about Kassie's work at KassandraHerbs.com.
With a K.
With a K. But the best way to contact you is by phone.
Yes.
All right. And what's the phone number?
860-749-0839. And that's really, I'm not what you call electronically literate yet. So that's a direct line. And I welcome people, even if you're not a customer, I welcome people with questions. And if I can't get it or I don't have it, I can maybe tell you how to go about it. So just feel free to call anytime. And it's the same phone in the house